Good morning, Portland Church of Christ. Today we've said, who needs back support? And gone for the stools in the lobby. I don't know why we don't move to stools as the chairs of America.
Let's remove the pews and just set out stools.
Everywhere. Stools as far as the eye can see. If you have your Bibles, go ahead and open up to Psalm chapter 11, a psalm that sadly says nothing about stools, but a whole lot about God. And like the rest of the psalms we've looked at this week, a whole lot about trust in God, especially in the face of seeming wickedness. Today's psalm, like we said, is no different from a lot of the ones we've looked at, but we are going to look at it a little bit differently than we've looked at the other ones.
Right. In times of trouble, people run to all kinds of places, metaphorically. When people feel stressed, when people, as of right now, in the middle of a crisis, or they feel troubled, or there's problems going on in their life, they go in all kinds of directions to seek peace, comfort, security that they're longing for. They want to feel settled in some way. They want to go to something that will cause them to forget about whatever is troubling them. And so people run to food, people run to things like pornography, alcohol, drugs. They even run to other people. And so maybe you find yourself in one of these in times of trouble. David asked a question in the first 3 verses here of Psalm chapter 11. It seems that David was maybe in a precarious situation where his enemies were camped around him. He talks about having the wicked bend their bow. So maybe his enemies had him in sight, and he's receiving some advice here that he doesn't like. It seems like his advisors are just saying, David, you need to run. You need to get out of here. You need to leave this situation. And so David says in verse 1, in the Lord I take refuge. In other words, he says, I put my trust in God, my peace and security. I find comfort in God. And so since that's the case, how can you tell me that I'm supposed to run away?
And then David answers these questions in the remaining verses. In verses 4 through 5, he talks about how no matter what, that God is in control. And he illustrates that by talking about how God is on his throne. That regardless of what his situation looks like and what our situations look like today, no matter the ebb and flow of governments and powers and principalities, that God still reigns supreme. And then in verse 6, he describes the destiny of the wicked. He says that judgment is coming. That no matter what else happens, at the end of the day, there's going to be a point in time where we're all held accountable. And that includes people who don't even acknowledge God. And then in verse 7, he describes the destiny of the righteous. He says that those who seek refuge in God, we get to see God's face. We're going to eventually get to have an actual intimate relationship with God that involves being in his presence. And there is going to be that eventual reward.
And what a day that will be. I can't even begin to imagine what it's going to be like to be in God's presence. And so the question then becomes, as we look at the song, that we need to ask ourselves and be as honest as possible. In times of trouble, when we feel stress, in a crisis like this, when we're almost feeling like we're at our wit's end, where do we go? Who do we run to find comfort and peace and security? Where do we go so that these problems feel like they, in a sense, melt away? Do we run to the things of the world, or do we run to God? Can we honestly say that he's our refuge? He's where we find peace. He's where we find safety. He's where we find security. In the midst of total chaos, can we say, as David says, in the Lord I take refuge?
Well, church, Sean has forgotten that he was the one who was supposed to say goodbye to you again.
Goodbye.
So I'll say it. We'll see you tomorrow.
No, I'll say it. We'll see you tomorrow.
He's just trying to steal my thunder.
Is it overkill with so many
No.
sanitizers here?
No. I think this just ensures that if you haven't gotten the joke yet, I mean, I shouldn't say there's no joke to get.
I think it's a matter of safety.
Right.
Personal.
In the Church of Christ, Gregorian chants never went out of style.
What do you run to in times of stress, crisis, uncertainty, what makes you feel good? What brings you comfort? Or who? Or what?
When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom.
Is this a voice you hear?
Let it be.
You're alluding to a song.
How do you not? I thought you were a Beatles fan. I thought
My
that was,
daughter's a Beatles fan.
Oh, that's. Well, I just assume you have all the characteristics of your children.
No. No. No.
Really? You don't know Let It Be?
I do. I know the song, but I don't know the lyrics to it.
Oh my gosh. I don't know if I can keep working here.
I've had people fall asleep in sermons before. Church.
I kind of hope I am
Safe.
obstructed by one of these.
What
Okay.
do you mean obstructed? Like it's in your way?
Yeah, like I kind of hope that you can't see me because like half my face is just covered up by it.
I'm sure you're not the only one that hopes that.
Let's just start by singing "Flee like a bird to your mountain."
Sunday during the lesson, I didn't go back and watch it, but do you know if the siren came through?
Yes, it did.
I'm sure. You're just running down the battery in your phone.
I'm at 100%. Baby.
You left yourself
I
wide
thought
open.
we were gonna be nice
Wide
to each
open.
other.
I don't mean everything that I say.
I don't believe that. I don't. You have to listen to it all the time to know one of the most iconic songs of literally all time.
I know it. I don't know the lyrics.